Okay, welcome back everybody. I have another mukbang today, and I'm actually talking about another true crime event, but it's a cold case file, so it was never actually solved. And today I'm going to be eating Papa John's. I ordered, I'm pretty sure these are new. I've never seen them. They're the like jalapeno popper, I guess, but it's made with like bread around the outside, like their pizza bread. And then a papadia, which is like, I think is more like a calzone, but it's apparently like a flatbread outer shell. And then I just got their regular chicken nuggets, but I got buffalo sauce with that. Garlic sauce also came with the papadia, and then ranch for the jalapeno poppers things. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started trying this because I'm pretty excited for it and very hungry. So that's good buffalo sauce. So the story today is actually called The Boy in the Box. And it's about a 4 or 5-year-old boy's body that was found in a bassinet, like a bassinet box, something that the bassinet was shipped in. And he was found like in the woods, kind of on the side of the road. And so they tried to identify the body, but considering this is a cold case file, you can imagine that they never actually ended up identifying who it was. Kind of wondering how this is going to be. This is actually the Philly cheesesteak, Papadia. This is really good. It tastes like a flatbread Subway sub, honestly. That's really good. And I feel like it's the perfect amount for somebody who was just eating on their own. This is probably the equivalent of like 2.5, 3 pieces of pizza. So when the police caught wind of this body that had been found, they started investigating people and looking for clues, but there was like nothing really that was like left behind, other than like they tried testing the boy's DNA, taking his fingerprints, and nothing showed up anywhere like for who he was or who he was related to, where he came from. And there were a couple statements taken by people around the town who claimed that they had stories or claimed that they like knew what happened. And there were only 2 that the police kind of went really like a little more in depth on. And one happened to be related to a foster home that was like 1.5 miles down the road, and the other was a statement from a woman who claimed that her mom murdered this boy, and that was that was who killed him. This is honestly pretty good. The jalapenos aren't really spicy at all. So the first story that they followed was the one from the foster home. And the police kind of went in and investigated because it seemed pretty likely that because this boy, nobody came forward to say, hey, this is my kid, and didn't have any information on him. They're like, well, he could probably be a foster child. So they went and investigated, and they found that the bassinets used in the foster home were the same kind as the bassinet that was shipped in the box that the boy was found in. On top of that, they found that the sheets and the blankets that were used at the foster home were the same ones that the boy was wrapped in and then thrown into the box. So you're kind of thinking, like, this has to be them, right? Somebody at the foster home had to have killed him, because the box that he was buried in most likely came from that foster home, as did the blanket that was used to wrap him in. So the police started going a little bit further into this, came to a dead end. There was nothing other than the bassinet box and the blankets being the same that related to the case whatsoever, and they were like, well, this isn't enough to arrest anyone, because anyone can buy these bassinets, because they were from JCPenney, which is nationwide. They're everywhere. And then the blankets, you can buy those probably at any department store. So kind of left them without like any leads at that point. Honestly, the Philly cheesesteak version of the Papa John's pizza is my favorite Papa John's pizza. So, this is a win for me. These are honestly super good. If you like jalapeno poppers, definitely recommend. So the second lead came from a woman by the name of Martha, who they referred to as M. Now the thing about Martha was that she was clinically insane and a little bit off the wall. So when the police got the statement from this woman, they were kind of like, I mean, we're not expecting much to come from this, mostly because she's kind of insane and probably is making a lot of this up. But the interesting thing about Martha's story was that she had a lot of information about the body and the crime scene that hadn't been released to the public. So Martha's story was that her mother had bought this young boy off of some parents, I think, in Tennessee. And then she took the boy back to Philadelphia with her, and from then, like, abused him, both physically, sexually, and kind of just used him as, like, a beating toy, I guess, would be the best way to put it. And Martha had some really interesting information from the night that she claimed this boy was murdered. She said that that night at dinner, they fed him baked beans. and he wasn't able to keep them down, so he threw them up at the dinner table. The mom got really mad and beat him, and then threw him in the bathtub to clean him off, like all the blood and stuff. And then the police were like, well, that's interesting, because the autopsy showed that he did indeed have baked beans for dinner, which was not something that was released to the public. And there were watermarks, like kind of like, you know how your fingers get pruny from water, on the body. So that had proved that he was in the water at some point near the time of death. So the police follow this lead, and they're like, well, that's really weird that all of this stuff comes up and she has all of this information. And when they actually went into the house and they started taking samples and everything, there was like nothing left behind from this boy ever living there. And they had talked to some of the neighbors who actually had access to the house, like were invited into this family's home, and they'd never claimed to see a boy that was young, you know, at this age, that ever lived in the house. So there were no witnesses other than Martha, the crazy woman, telling the police all of this kind of really accurate information that they don't know how she got. So really they had nothing other than one woman claiming she had a story that they couldn't pin any evidence to. I think it's kind of weird that they weren't able to get any evidence from the house, just because Martha's witness accounts were bone-chillingly accurate for something that nobody knew even happened. So I think, or at least my theory, is that it was kind of like a, if you've ever seen the movie An American Crime. If you haven't, I won't spoil it, but basically the gist of the movie is that there was a girl living with these, not foster parents, but kind of like foster parents, and she was abused and was kept down in the basement. So, I mean, that's kind of like a likely thing that could have happened in this situation. But I just think they would have had to find some kind of information. This happened back in the late 90s, so you would think that the police technology was at least somewhat more advanced to where they would be able to figure this out. There are a lot of cold case files from years ago, you know, prior to the 2000s. There's so many. My theory, because that's all that there is out there, is that Martha was telling the truth, and the mom really did abuse this child and went down to the foster home, had somebody go down to the foster home, got the box, hid him in the box, wrapped him in the blanket, threw him in there to try to cover it up because, hey, it's a foster home, so it's likely that they'll look here and then they'll find out that there's the same blankets and the same box from the bassinets that they use in their nursery, like kind of trying to cover it up. I don't know how they didn't get like fingerprints or anything off of that though, you know, because it was only a couple days after the body was deceased that they found it in the woods. So I don't know, I just think it's a little weird because this whole crime seemed kind of sloppy, and I feel like there should have been a lot more DNA and data left at the crime scene alone, and then possibly in somebody else's house. Like, it should have led somewhere. I don't know. I feel like nowadays, if there was a 4-year-old found in a box dumped on the side of the road, the police would be all over it, and then they'd be scanning for DNA all over the place, and they'd be trying to figure out like where this came from, you know, posting pictures all over. Granted, they did post pictures in Philadelphia and tried to kind of make like a digital makeup of what he would have looked like, because the body was kind of really beat up, so they wanted to make it like a pure picture to be like, hey, is this anyone's kid? But I don't know, I just feel like that should have been solved, right? I'm really full. That was a lot of bread. Okay, well, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to this video. I post new videos every 2 weeks. I'm kind of trying to upload on Sundays. Either way, thank you for watching.